So Ruy Lopez closed Shigurin. So the whole complex, the whole sequence here is called Shigurin. So the whole idea of getting the knight out to a5 and opening up the c file. Shigurin's defense. So Mikhail Shigurin was the adopted father of the Soviet chess school. We've also got the Ruy Lopez closed defense. Black might decide not queen c7, but other things like bishop to b7 is another alternative, or just knight c6 is another alternative. If d5, then black can just reroute the knights. The knight perhaps b7, d7, and maybe later use that c5 square. So there's two main alternatives here. So not just queen c7. Okay, before we get lost in the forest of the Ruy Lopez, let's go back earlier. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e2, rook e1. Now this sequence. Now here, if black doesn't play d6, black can also delay that usage of the d pawn. And in this line we have the Marshall counter gambit, still very, very popular today. And actually Walter Korn gave this an exclamation mark, this move, as if this is a really strong move at black's disposal. We saw in the Steinitz line with c3 earlier that d5, it put the popularity out the Steinitz, but here it's a liberating d5 but at the expense of the pawn. The Marshall gambit deserves, and its variations deserve a video in its own right. Just wanted to really give you a just quick overview of stuff in this video. Let's go back, in fact, and rewind now. So, if we go back to e4, e5, we also have the Gyokyo piano, which is when black plays bishop c5. I was confused about that a long time before. So the Gyokyo piano remains a solid system. And here we have the Evans gambit, b4, for a quick c3 and d4. So we have either gambit accepted or declined here. So it can either go to b6 or just take. We have, after knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f3 is known as the two knights defense, where both black knights are coming out. Funny enough. After knight g5 here, d5, we're approaching fried liver territory. So here knight d5 is a bit risky, but knight a5. So here's like a key two knights game variation. Still played a lot today. So black's sacrificing a pawn for activity, and it's loads and loads of opening theory there in the two knights defense. So let's go back. As I say, very, very quick overview of this video of the major names. Now the four knights, I wonder if you can guess the four knights. We've got two knights out, and now knight c3, knight f6, four knights game. So Taras Shamaroxa used to play the four knights game with the expectation of winning. So what have we got in this four knights game? What little treats. So bishop b5, bishop b5, bishop b4 rather, castles, both sides castle, bit boringly symmetrical I would say, d3, but now if takes, pawn takes, well this is a highly trodden path. we've got a bit of an imbalance going on here. Black's giving up the bishop, so it's not the sort of stuff I'll play. Let's go back though and get some names. Knight f3, knight c6, knight c3. Not so. Bishop b5. Whoops. Knight c3, knight b3, bishop b5. We've got here knight d4 is the Rubinstein counter gambit or Rubinstein variation. So this is important to know. So white can play knight takes, or just move the bishop to a4, or play knight takes, in fact, or bishop c4. There's four main moves, as you'd expect here. They look all pretty sensible. Now, if we go back again, so in this four knights line we have d4 as well, called the Scotch variation, so an echo of the Scotch gambit, that early d4. Okay, now let's go back even further and look at other stuff I've been playing sometimes in Blitz, the Vienna game. So white's going to play a kind of delayed f4, King's Gambit, kind of delayed, but more safer to play. Nice, if you want to confuse opponents with offbeat lines, Vienna. Also, we've got an immediate d4, the centre game, where white's breaking a bit of a rule in the opening about moving the queen out too early. We've also got, after d4 takes, we've also got here, which is known as the Danish Gambit. So it's an offshoot of the centre game, corner to corner. So, but black can actually play d5 and like here. So it's the Sorensen defence, and that should give black a bit of equality. The bishop's opening next. So that's bishop c4. Forget knight f3, just bishop c4. The bishop's opening. I don't think it's that great today. The bishop's opening. So what, black can play knight f6 or bishop c5 or d6. Well, obviously black's got a number of alternatives. It can transpose into other stuff as well. So I in that f7 thing. Now let's look at the unusual lines after e4, e5. The Alpin opening, knight e2. Maybe the knight can go to g3, and it looks a bit more passive on g3, and the bishop somewhere. We've also got after knight f3. Go back to knight f3. Knight c6. Bishop c4, bishop e2, the Hungarian defence. Bit of an unusual sort of waiting move, interesting. Now if d4, d6, white might be tempted for d5. That's interesting, Hungarian defence, with that bishop e2 being the emphasis of that. After knight c6, though, here bishop e2 is the inverted Hanham, Korn calls it, but I've got it as the inverted Hungarian. Well, it is an inverted Hungarian. If that bishop e7 is the Hungarian, it's sort of in reverse Hungarian. Okay. I don't think I've ever played this move in Blitz. After knight f3, let's go back. A more unusual thing: Queen's pawn counter gambit, or elephant gambit, as I think it's more trendily known as. So knight f3, d5, the elephant gambit. I've planted this in Blitz. It's good fun. If takes, for example, then e5 is possible. And now here, pawn to king, bishop 4. It's interesting stuff. So that was my very brief, super brief overview of e4, e5 major opening names. So maybe it's given you some ideas for surprise weapons. I know I've been stumbling around a bit in this video. It's not that elegant, but I think I'll explore Ruy Lopez variations in a future video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please check out the forerunner video of this, the e4 names overview, which was really brief. This is like the key systems within e4, e5. Thanks very much.